On GMU at 6, President Trump now calling for a peaceful transition of power. His message to Americans following a deadly week in Washington.
And a Capitol police officer has now died in the following those violent protests in D.C. Hear what his family is now saying about his passing.
Then more than 80 people in custody for that rioting, among them a man from Utah.
Plus, Sarah and Brian, conditions are quiet right now. Headlines include a weak system here by this evening. And, of course, your lifestyle traffic updates brought to you by the Advocates.
Live from Utah's first TV station, Good Morning Utah at 6 starts now.
Good morning, Utah. I'm Brian Carlson.
And I'm Sarah Martin. It is 6 a.m. on this Friday morning. We begin with a sudden switch from President Donald Trump. In a new video posted to Twitter, he's now acknowledging defeat.
Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power.
It's been nearly 2 days since the pro-Trump mob overran the U.S. Capitol, and here's what we know so far. The joint session of Congress, interrupted by that violent mob, has confirmed President-elect Biden as the next president. That mob, some of whom wearing body armor, pushed past barricades and police, made it all the way to the House and Senate floors, as well as offices, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office, leaving a wake of destruction behind. President-elect Biden blasted Trump and the angry mob that seized the Capitol, but also the law enforcement response.
Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob.
Police say they recovered 2 working pipe bombs at the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters and safely detonated them.
And overnight, a U.S. Capitol police officer has now died following that violent siege on Wednesday. Police say Officer Brian Sicknick died last night from injuries he received trying to stop that mob. It's now the 5th confirmed death connected to the riots. In a statement, Officer Sicknick's brother told ABC News, quote, "After a day of fighting for his life, he passed away a hero." He continued, quote, "I would like to thank all of his brothers and sisters in law enforcement for the incredible compassion and support they have shown my family." A Utah man is now one of more than 80 people being charged with crimes in Wednesday's riots. The Washington, D.C. Metro Police released an arrest list identifying 37-year-old Ryan Hellstrom from Utah. Hellstrom was arrested for assaulting a police officer and crossing a police line. Police are still searching across the country for people part of that riot. Because of the president's response to the riots, a number of cabinet members and the White House staff have now resigned, many citing the president's rhetoric and actions. That includes Trump's Deputy National Security Advisor, Matt Pottinger, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, and Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. She announced she'll resign on Monday, saying she was, quote, deeply troubled by the entirely avoidable events at the Capitol building.
A new call to remove President Trump from office is gaining momentum in both parties. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called on Vice President Mike Pence and President Trump's cabinet to immediately invoke the 25th Amendment, saying if they refuse, Congress should impeach the president. Other lawmakers have said they're already drawing up the articles of impeachment. In an interview with ABC4 News, one law professor broke down what this all means.
Both would remove the president from his capacity to continue in the office, but one of them would be that the vice president would be sort of acting in his stead, and the other is that he would be fully becoming the president. Impeachment is a longer process. It requires a trial in the House, and it requires a removal in the Senate.
Jones says that impeachment would be difficult in such a short time frame, but so would invoking the 25th Amendment. If Trump is removed, the vice president would hold presidential powers in the interim. Following those riots in our nation's capital, we are taking a deeper dive into the current political climate. An expert from University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics will be with us live at about 6:30 right here on GMU.
Time now for your weather on the 4s.
All right, Erica, the weekend is almost here.
Woohoo!
How's our weather looking?
Well, our weather's looking really good, and I do want to quickly show you our drive times too, Brian, because if you're headed up I-80 northbound to Baker Highway, southbound to I-15 southbound, it looks like the drive time is not off that by too much. Normal drive time is 26 minutes, and we're at 30 minutes right now. And then if you are headed northbound to I-80, normal drive time is 26, and it looks like it's right on time. So I always like to make sure that everybody knows there's not much going on fun out there on the roads, especially when it comes to weather, because of course we have to keep you updated on all of your lifestyle updates. In the meantime, live look outside St. George. It is quiet. It is beautiful to start your day. So just enjoy everything you have in store, especially with all that sunshine. We do have a few extra clouds developing later, but again, you're going to start off very nice. Current temperature in the upper 20s for you, along with Lake Powell, Blanding 21, single digits for Moab and for Vernal, Salt Lake City 24, Delta at 12, and Ely currently at 11 degrees. Now coming up, we're going to talk more about your temperatures because we do have a little bit of a dip in those daily highs for this upcoming weekend as the cold front sweeps on through, and we're also tracking some precip. But as you saw, the roads look quiet, so does the weather for now. Back to you.
Well, thank you much, Erica. Time now is 6:05. Police took part in a meeting last night to discuss the dramatic spike in violent crime in Salt Lake City's Ballpark neighborhood. Last month, a man was killed and 2 others were wounded in a shooting. The neighborhood stretches from the Smiths Ballpark, where the Bees play, east to Liberty Park. In last night's meeting, Salt Lake Police Chief Mike Brown told people the city's new plan, Project Safe Neighborhood, will help decrease the city's overall 21% uptick in crime.
That's where we go after these apex habitual criminals and prosecute them federally.
Now, one of the things they stressed in last night's meeting specifically with the new crime fighting plan is that repeat offenders are committing some of that crime, and due to COVID restrictions in local jail, that's had a hard time keeping those offenders behind bars.
We've got an update now on the former principal of West High School. His educator license suspended for a year. Principal Ford White, as you'll remember, accused of driving 2 drunk students home instead of turning them in to police. The Utah State Board of Education voted just Wednesday to recommend Ford White's suspension for a year, saying his conduct fell, quote, on the lower end of the spectrum of professional standards violations. That suspension backdated to June 30th of 2020, the last day White was under contract with the Salt Lake City School District. Utah's first vaccine recipient and hospital employee got her booster shot yesterday. U of U Health says 60% of its employees have had the COVID-19 vaccine so far. Christy Mulder says she feels safe and says anyone who's open to it should have this conversation and get the vaccine.
I feel good. So far, so good. I didn't have any side effects from the first shot, and so I'm hoping the same for my second.
Doctors say the vaccine is 50% effective after the first dose and 95% effective after the second. Some patients may feel fatigued, run a fever, or have a headache.
And many people who've recovered from COVID-19 may think they're now immune, but a new study from the CDC says that immunity may be short-lived. The CDC studied 156 healthcare workers who had COVID-19, and when they were retested 60 days later, 146 of them showed a decline in the level of antibodies. 28% of those patients studied had no detectable antibodies 60 days after recovery. An Intermountain Healthcare infectious disease specialist says he's treated patients battling COVID-19 twice.
You know, many times it's really kind of hard to distinguish reinfection versus prolonged viral shedding. But absolutely, we've seen a number of cases where I've been convinced, even with a very scrutinizing eye, that there has been reinfections, and some of those reinfections have been severe.
Now, doctors say the exact relationship between antibody levels and immunity so far is unclear. And he emphasizes people who've recovered from COVID-19 still need to get the vaccine.
Meanwhile, southeastern Utah shattered its daily record of COVID-19 hospitalizations. The local health department reported record 75 people treated in the hospital for COVID-19 just Thursday, another 69 on Wednesday. Officials at St. George Regional say if the current trends don't change, they will be forced to enter crisis care.
And we don't want to use this space. We can if we need to. We will if we need to. We're prepared to take care of all patients in southwest Utah. But we would like to stay as far away from crisis care as we're able to stay.
The local death toll from COVID-19 reached 154 Thursday, 58 of those deaths just in the last month.
And here's your morning update on COVID-19. Utah had 4,500 new cases yesterday. That brings our state total now to 297,000. 68,000 Utahns have received the vaccine. 537 COVID patients are currently being treated in hospitals across the state, and 29 more Utahns have died for a total of 1,359. You look at our last 7 days, you see our daily case totals popping up. Right now we're averaging 2,900 new cases a day. That's the green line on your screen. Our average positivity rate right now is 32.1%.
Happening today, Salt Lake County is going to be talking their vaccine rollout plan for the general public. At 10 this morning, they'll release that information and answer questions for people who live and work in the county.
A small business in Davis County can now keep its doors open thanks to everyone in Layton. This comes after a restaurant named One Dude's Pizza Company was on the verge of closing because of financial struggles because of COVID-19. Well, they now opened 2 months ago in Layton. The owner, Alex Peterson, struggled to make ends meet, announced his decision to close. That's when people said, you know what, we're going to step in. They bought pizzas and gift cards to keep the restaurant going.
I've been an emotional wreck. I just want people to know that what they did for me and what they're still doing for me just meant the world. I don't know what I did to ever deserve it.
Peterson's also using 20% of all the gift cards that were purchased to help other small businesses who aren't able to get government assistance.
6:10 now, coming up on Good Morning Utah. Fewer people walking into Walgreens, but their sales are up. How the pharmacy is making up that money coming up. And 2 new series out this weekend. Film critic Tony Toscano has the reviews of what you should and maybe shouldn't binge watch this weekend. But first, here's what's coming up on Good Morning America.